All right, Odie. We've navigated the jungle-like terrain of you trying to change the course of this podcast and do something other than be
You're
the
welcome.
chef. Yeah.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Cool. Yeah. Nah. You see the name? You see the name?
Your
Kevin
name is
hates
Kevin
this.
hates this.
Yes, because
in
this
you hate-
process has been painful.
You hate when I don't throw curveballs at the last minute that take up way too much time and cut into how long we can record. You love when I do that though.
I fear change. That's what it really comes down to. Whenever people
It's time
hand
to
me
grow,
like
Kevin.
quarters or nickels or anything, I just say I fear change and I walk away from them.
So you never played the game Quarters?
No, I fear change.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
You know what? I'm ready to record now. I'm ready to go. We've been riffing
Okay.
unintentionally for a while now. Dude, I'm gonna give you the title of this episode before we even start, and I'm gonna let you
Okay.
guess. You get one guess at what the
One
title of
guess.
this episode is before we start the episode.
I'm gonna guess you're gonna call this Big Daddies and Small Problems.
No.
Am I close?
I'll give you what I'll be really fair. I'll give you one more guess.
Can I have a hint?
Nope.
Knock knock, who's there? Daddy's home?
This episode is called Jean-Claude Van Dad. Woo!
I think I
Three.
did this to
2,
myself.
1. Great. Perfect. On time as
Nice.
always. Jean-Claude Van Dad, that's the title of this episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Unpop Podcast. I am your host, El Capitan Todo Es Siempre, Kevin Minor, he, him. With me, as always,
Is Odie Matthews the chef? Oh, they, them. I almost said my name again.
Odie Matthews, the chef, Odie Matthews.
Odie Matthews.
Double the name, double the chefin'. All right, cool.
Exactly.
Odie, you pitched this week's topic, and I accepted.
Yeah.
Now, what is it?
Because you said this week, you said that you were in, what did you call it? Not single dad mode. Or was it single dad mode that you called it?
So, yeah.
Yeah, you said you were in single dad mode.
Yes, I am neither single nor am I the biological father of any children. However, I do have a mode that exists within my being called single dad mode, and is when Brandy is gone for the week and I am home with one or more of the kids by myself. Because I am the single parent of the household, right? The solitary parent, single, and I am dad-like in nature for the entire week. So yes, single dad mode was the mode. And you said,
I think that's really funny because you are neither single nor a dad, technically. And we should talk about the best TV and movie dads. And the reason I said the best and not the worst is because there's enough shitty dads out there. So
Yes.
let's talk about some good ones. And
Okay.
that was my thought.
That's amazing. I want to know the structure with which you've prepared your dad tier list, because that's what this is. This is a tier list episode.
So, I wrote down the names and the movies they're in.
Great.
That's all. That's all.
That's amazing. Here's what I want to do, because I have three lists prepared for this. I have 3.
Okay, I have 6 people in total.
That's great. I want you to run me down this list of dads that you have prepared, and then I'm going to give you, because we didn't say that we weren't going to do worst dads, so I have the top 3 worst dads, and it's like this is objective. It's in stone. I don't think anybody would disagree. People might argue a biased that there are worst dads, but I'm telling you right now, this is the list of the top 3 worst dads. Right Then I
Okay.
have my list of top 3 best dads, and then I have an honorary mention, which is
Of
also a
worst
list.
or
All right,
best?
it's a list and an honorary mention. Just
Okay.
give
I
me
think you did way more than I did.
I
Just
did it
saying.
all in like 20 minutes this morning. So
Still more
this
than
was
me.
like, here's how I approached this the way that a single dad would approach a final project in grad school, right? There's not a lot of time in the week. You kind of got to scrape whatever you can together last minute and hope you get an A. So run me down your list of 6 dads.
Well, we're gonna start with the 4 that I think are the best to highlight. Okay.
Okay.
Now, do you want this in any specific order or just the order? We're just gonna do the order I wrote them down.
The order you wrote it in is always like least to
Mm,
greatest. It's always, we're
okay.
starting at 6, we're working our way to 1 in the order that Odie wrote it down.
We're gonna start with the top 4. I'm actually gonna keep 2 off to the side for later.
Okay.
You'll see why. You'll see why. There's a reason
Okay.
behind all of this, Kevin. Okay,
Great.
so the first dad that I want to talk about is single letter character name called H. Do you know the character H?
That's ringing no bells for me.
Okay, so H is a former British Special Forces operator turned like gangster mobster in the Los Angeles scene, and he has a kid. This kid's name is Dougie. This kid is in college, and H wants to be the best dad imaginable, and he takes his kid out. Now, keep in mind, he's also the leader of like a mobster, gangster. Like these people are pretty shitty, but he's suave because he's from Britain.
Okay.
And Dougie gets killed while he's out and about. And so H, decides to kill and take out everybody that was involved. It's a Jason Statham movie, Wrath of Man. It's great.
Okay.
It's Guy Ritchie. So I think that's a great dad because if somebody killed your son in front of you and you had the skills, money, and mental capacity to go undercover and then figure out who did it and then kill them all, it's pretty impressive. That's a pretty good dad right there. If you're willing to kill people.
Vengeance dad number 4. Got it. Jason Statham, vengeance dad number 4. Perfect.
Yeah. Number 3 is a character called Phil Broker. Now, do you know the character Phil Broker?
No, I have absolutely no idea.
So Phil Broker is just a simple man with a simple daughter, lives in the backwoods of Louisiana, and there's a certain person there that doesn't like him because he's an outsider, right? It's Jason Statham. And
I love
he's there
these
and just
vague descriptions that you're giving me just to reveal that it's Jason Statham when the bit's already been established.
No.
I know where we're going with this.
No, this is the only 2 Jason Statham. This is the only 2 Jason Statham. Okay? I was thinking about it.
Believe you because there's 2 more.
Okay. Well, just wait. The movie Homefront. Have you ever seen the movie Homefront? Now, genuinely,
No.
I do. Now, genuinely, these are movies that I think are genuinely good. Like, I remember we talked last season. I went on the bender of watching a bunch of Jason Statham movies, which is how I ended up watching Wrath of Man, which is Guy Ritchie, who I love. Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie's a great director. Jason Statham's a great actor for what he does. I mean, I wouldn't put him in like The Shawshank Redemption or anything, but he's like for what he does and who he plays, like he's a good actor.
Jason Statham, famed actor from John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars. Got it. Great. Go.
I honestly, I haven't seen Ghosts of Mars in so long. I should really watch it.
Well, Jason Statham's in it, and he's very Jason Statham. Anyway, keep going.
So Jason Statham plays a DEA agent, right? And basically, there's a villain there named, I believe his name is Gator, played by the perverted sex offender James Franco.
I thought it was going to be played by Will Ferrell's character from The Other Guys. I started going by the name Gator.
Right.
That's a different movie altogether. All right, cool. So James Franco.
Very different. Right. So James Franco's there, and like I said, Jason Statham plays a former DEA agent. He's just trying to live a quiet life. Well, the town folk don't like him, and basically, it turns out that Gator's like big drug kingpin, and so what I think that makes him a good dad in this is his daughter gets bullied, right? Gets bullied at school and everything. And
Mhm.
instead of him having to like step up and like talk to the bully or like talk to the parents of the bully, the girl just beats the shit out of the bully, right? And that's what kind of like kicks off all the stuff. And then Jason's like, look, you shouldn't always beat people up, but like, good job, proud of you for
Yeah.
beating that bully up, right? Because
Okay.
it's Louisiana, like beat the shit out of that bully. But
Yeah.
then turns out that that bully had connections to Gator, and so then it becomes like him having to protect his daughter while also taking down this like drug kingpin of this town. So it's just like, I don't know, it's a really good like dad epic adventure where he's like, he's protecting his daughter and he's taking out the bad guys, and like, like the daughter's not completely incompetent because like she actually has some skills because she has a DEA agent of a father. So like,
Okay.
I don't know, it's good. It's good.
All right.
Have you ever seen it?
No.
There's a
I
clip on YouTube. So what, you don't watch Jason Statham? How dare you?
Here's where Jason Statham peaks for me and almost ends. Like, because after this, I don't think I pay much attention to him. Is he's in a string of Guy Ritchie films, and then I think
No.
that peaks with the film Revolver.
Really?
Yes. He does a phenomenal job. He plays a great character. It's and he's another one of those actors, like, it's not ever a character. It's Jason Statham as, right?
Mhm.
I have the same issue with like Tom Hanks and, other character actors
Ryan Reynolds.
who don't get so much into character. Like they get that, well, and maybe they're getting typecast and like whatever, their pockets are full, right? Like I'm not saying they're not successful. What I'm saying is, like, when someone is the one thing, right? That's it. Like when you're Jason Statham as the guy in the transporter, Jason Statham as the guy in Wrath of Man, like, because that's who he is. He's always talking like this. He's always just talking whoever he's talking to,
beating
like,
people up.
Yeah, it's like, good job, girl, but you can't always beat boys up. You can't always do it because now I'm in a lick of trouble here. Like, now I gotta go fight some sharks. I'll see you later. Like that's Jason Statham. And it's always that like specific frequency through every movie. So, Revolver is like peak that mode, and then after that it's the same thing, just in every other movie. And Revolver is just it's a phenomenal film. So, all right, keep going.
Well, I was gonna say, if you're gonna watch, or I would recommend. There's a really good scene of this movie Homefront on YouTube that I really like, where it's like Jason Statham's at a gas station, and these guys like all walk up and are like, "We're gonna beat you up," and then he just like wipes the floor with all like 6 of them, and it's just, I don't know, it's like a really, it's a down to earth action scene. Like, if you ever seen Jack Reacher, the first one, not the the TV show or even the movie with Tom Cruise, where like those fight scenes aren't like The Rock and Vin Diesel, where it's like they're never gonna get tired and they can take on like 100 guys. Where it's like this is like a 1v4 fight, and like by the end of it, the main character's like, he's got some hits in himself, but like he's also a little bloody, and he's like, man, I'm a little winded, but I won. Yeah. Like, it's like one of those fights, which I really appreciate and also really miss in Hollywood. I really miss the realistic street fights.
Okay.
But speaking of street fights, moving on to the next one. You said you see a pattern, but I don't know how. It's not so much. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, doesn't matter. Next one I want to talk about is a little lovely character called Brian O'Connor. Do you know who Brian O'Connor is?
No. Enlighten me.
Brian O'Connor.
Wait, hold on.
Is played by Paul Walker in one of the best film franchises of all time, Fast and Furious. I specifically want to talk about Furious 7. So,
which
I know you're going to sigh, but here's the thing. Oh my God, you're right. He is in that movie. Who would have known? Yeah, he plays Deckard Shaw. What a crazy coincidence that he's in that. That's weird.
Oh my God! What a crazy coincidence that Jason.
But here's the thing: Furious 7. There's a lot of dads, right? You got Brian O'Connor by Paul Walker. You've got Luke Hobbs by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who's technically a dad in those movies. And then later down the road, you're going to find out that Vin Diesel, technically, canonically in the Fast and Furious franchise, he's a dad at this point, but doesn't find out until Fate of the Furious number 8. But Here's why I think Brian O'Connor deserves to be on this list, and it just happens to be another Jason Statham movie, but that's unintentional. Is through the 7 movies, it's this whole thing about like him and Toretto, Dom are, they're doing all these adventures, doing all these heists, they're doing all these action bits, and like this is their life, and everything is family related. But when he has a kid, and granted, like I know that the passing of real life pedophile Paul Walker did not help. For those of you that don't know, Paul Walker was dating a 16-year-old, and by the time of his death, she was only 20. So like,
interesting.
He was in his 40s, and he started like seeing her when she was 16. So that's cool. Weird. Not really, but yeah, don't do that. But like at the end of Furious 7, right, which I get is his last movie because he died in real life. He crashed a car into a tree.
Yeah.
But in the story of Fast and Furious, because he's a dad and because he cares about his kid, he's willing to not only give up the life that he loves, but all of his friends and adventures and being a part of it to be a minivan stay-at-home dad. And I think that's really interesting because I think it'd be even better if he didn't die in real life and they like wrote his character out to bring him back, which they're definitely going to bring him back anyways with CGI and face replacement. But like, that's a pretty good dad right there. Like willing to not get murdered or do big heists or potentially go to jail forever for your kid.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's number 4, 3, and 2. What's number 1?
Mm-hmm. All right, number 1 is probably one of my favorites. Jonas Taylor. Do you know who Jonas Taylor is?
I have no idea who any of these characters are that you're naming. It's very apparent. Like this is not my genre of film. Like this is not my preferred. Like I'm not paying attention. Well, I think also just like these are all action films. Like I'm not paying attention to people's names in action films. Like I don't know what anybody is named in the Expendables. I don't know what anybody like. I only know the character of an action film if their name is the title of the film. I'm pretty sure that Jason Statham's name is Wrath of Man in that film, but you had to come along and like just tell me that the name was different, right? Like this is. I thought Paul Walker's name was Fast 7. Like that's all right. Keep going.
You mentioned the Expendables. You know there's a 4th one coming out in like 2 weeks?
No, I didn't
know that until yesterday.
I
found the trailer online. Yeah,
I bet they're
crazy.
all dads. What a plethora of nominations.
Oh my god. All right. Jonas Taylor is he's a deep sea diver, right?
Great.
And he goes on a deep sea diving mission. It goes wrong. So he's like, I'm done. I'm retiring. This is bullshit. People blame me for stuff that went wrong. It wasn't my fault. I'm going to go just do myself. Well,
I feel like I know where you're going.
His skills. I don't think you do.
I think I do.
I don't think you do.
I don't think I do.
I just don't. I don't think you could. So it turns out his skills are needed to rescue somebody that's trapped, a little bit under the ocean, like a little bit further down than like what most people would be,
just like a little bit under, just like a skim.
Basically down under. So long story short, he begrudgingly decides to go do this rescue mission, and it's great. And he meets this girl, and they fall in love, and they bond.
She's Asian.
And she has a daughter.
She has a daughter.
And so he becomes like a surrogate father for this daughter, and that's why do you keep doing this voice? Basically, that's it. He is a deep sea diver that I'm not going anywhere with this. This is I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay,
it's called Deep Sea Dive Rescues. That's
not what it's called.
So after he meets this girl, he has a kid, and they get married. Well, flash forward about 5 years, she passes away, and now he is the father of this kid, and it turns out that more trouble is a brewing because 3 Megs show up. I'm talking about Jonas Taylor, Jason Statham, The Meg 2, The Trench, the best movie this year.
Okay.
Jason Statham just plays great dads.
Okay,
And
great.
another honorable mention would be Jensen Ames, his character from Death Race, who is married and has a kid, and then they're murdered, and he's framed, so he has to go to prison in order to drive underneath the name Frankenstein for the crazy prison warden, and Tyrese Gibson and Ian McShane are there, and he's like
Yep.
only 2 races away from winning, but oh my
Yeah,
God,
okay.
is he really going to get set free? No, because they're going to kill him, but he wants
Yep.
revenge on the person who murdered his family, who's at the prison, which he does because he's a good dad.
Okay,
Another great Jason Statham movie.
great.
Did you see my theme that I was doing mainly Jason Statham characters leading up to the best movie of all time, Meg 2: The Trench?
No, I didn't see it at all.
Yeah. He's not really a deep sea.
Didn't even know
he's
it was
a deep sea rescue diver.
Look, all right. Well,
Would you like my 2 real ones?
no. Here's
Okay,
what I'm
here they
gonna do. All right. Here's where we're going with this.
I feel like you do not appreciate the effort that I had to go through all of Jason Statham's filmography to find out which ones he specifically has kids, alive or not, get their character names, and then remember the movies to tell this to you.
I do appreciate it, but let's go back through this list. Death Race, first off, he's a criminal and puts his family in danger, and that's why they're murdered and he's
No, he's not. He's not a criminal. He was a NASCAR driver. He was a NASCAR driver. You're
criminal.
crazy. He wasn't a criminal. You're wrong.
Jensen Ames
You're
is
wrong.
an alcoholic.
Wrong. Don't you dare insult that movie.
All right. What else we got?
Jonas Taylor, you can't say anything bad about.
Jonas Taylor's an alcoholic. He's a drunk.
Well, I mean, he's a drunk because he was accused of murdering people at the bottom of the ocean.
Yes. But maybe he did.
Would you like my 2 real ones, Kevin, to set the palate clean?
Give me your 2 real ones. I appreciate the effort that you went to try and convince me that I should like Jason Statham more because he's a dad, but I don't know that it worked. All right, give me your best 2.
I will always love Jason Statham.
Right. Actual 2.
So honorable mention number 1, Rick O'Connell from the Mummy franchise. I know he's technically only a dad in
the Mummy
3, but I really love the Mummy movies. I love Brendan Fraser, and I think that making him a dad, I just really like the dad dynamic because it's goofy and he's silly and he doesn't know what he's doing, and I think it's good.
Okay. He also lets
legit,
his
my favorite
son marry an ancient Chinese ghost lady, right?
Yeah, everybody's dream. What do you mean?
I don't know. That's a little bit of a quizzical dad move in my opinion. It's do whatever you want, son, even if it's an ancient Chinese ghost lady who might present problems later. Okay, keep going.
And I think that's great.
Yeah.
But legitimately, my favorite TV dad of all time, it's not a movie, it's a TV, is Henry Spencer.
Who's that?
If you don't know who Henry Spencer is, he's played by Corbin Burnson. It is in my favorite TV show that I have a tattoo for, the TV show Psych. It's James Roday, Dule Hill, they're Sean and Gus. Have you heard of the show Psych? It was on USA.
Yes.
Ran from 2006 to 2014. It is my favorite
men?
show of all time. No. Basically, the whole plot of this is Sean Spencer, played by James Roday, is the son of Henry Spencer, who is a was a detective in Santa Barbara, California. Mm-hmm. Well, his son, Sean, can't keep a job, and his whole entire life he's always running from one thing to the next, and it turns out he's really good because his dad taught him to be hyper observant, and so he starts figuring out that he can solve cases, but he's not a qualified detective, so he pretends to be psychic, and when he sees clues and puts things together, he pretends to have visions, and it's a buddy cop comedy, and his best friend Gus is a pharmaceutical salesman that he just drags along everywhere, and Gus is the straight-minded logical perspective of what they're doing element of the show, where Sean is I'm gonna do whatever I want, I'm a goofy man child, and it's just, for one, it's hilarious, for two, it's extremely, if you like references to other movies, to other songs, to other people, to celebrities that are pre-2005, between 1980 and 2005, this show is full of them. But on top of that, it does a really good job of balancing the comedy, a through line for all 8 seasons, as well as some really, really good heartfelt moments. There's some really, I watched this show, it came out when I was 13, and I started watching about halfway through season 1. I started watching it. It came out every Friday. I watched every episode. So I watched the show before streaming was a thing.
Yeah.
Like every weekend, I was like, oh, new episode of Psych's coming out. Gotta watch it. It is literally it's unmatched. It is a phenomenal show that like it'll never not be my favorite show of all time. It is. If you have Peacock, you need to check it out. It's phenomenal. And honestly, it hasn't aged that bad.
Okay.
Like obviously like there's an episode where he like has do you remember before Bluetooth in cars when you had to pull out your CDs and be like, what CD do I want to listen to? There's an episode like that. But I mean, besides things like that, it's Henry Spencer, though, as a dad aspect, he's just a really like, I don't want to give away too much, but basically like you would think that because he's a hardened cop and his son's kind of like a failure in a lot of ways and kind of like a man child that like he wouldn't be very supportive. But like the whole through line through the show is that like Henry doesn't want to help his kid, but like he helps his kid. You know what I mean? Like he's there for him, even when he doesn't want to be, because like he's a good dad and it's a good show. And it's by far the best TV dad out there. And that's my real list after my other real list of Jason Statham, because that's a real list too. And I stand by it.
That's great.
All right. Jean-Claude Van Damme me.
Oh, I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to give you a choice. What do you want first? Worst dads or best dads?
Let's go worst dads so we end on a happy note.
Cool. All right. Worst dads. Here we go. Number 3. Byron Mills. Do you know who that is?
Oh man, that name sounds familiar. What's the actor?
I'm gonna just tell you that Byron Mills is a very certain man with a certain set of skills, and he likes
Liam Neeson.
Yes, 100%. Byron Mills is number 3 worst dad.
Yes.
First off,
100%.
Yep. First off,
that's great.
If you were a good dad, there wouldn't be more than one. That's the real reason. But there's 3 movies where people
His wife gets taken in one of them too.
They keep getting taken from him, and it's because like and like, what is one of your skills? Not like wiping yourself completely from the map. Like he's like his only superpowers are like beating up criminals when motivated. But like he's not motivated to do anything other than beat up criminals because he can't do anything else. He's not actually being proactive with his protection. All right.
Wait, before you move on, I gotta tell you this.
Yeah.
There is a scene of Taken 3.
Okay.
I need to look it up. Just look up like YouTube Taken 3 fence jumping scene. Yeah. I am not joking. There's a scene where he's climbing up a fence and he's gonna go over the fence and people are chasing him.
Yeah.
There are, I believe it's around this number. It might even be more. In this like 6-second clip, there are like over 8 jump edit cuts where it's like him looking at the fence, him on the fence, him over the fence, him top. Like it just cuts to all these. It's like 8 different cuts just for him jumping over. It's the funniest shit in the world because Liam Neeson's like a 60-year-old man going over a fence from 8 different angles in 5 seconds. It's atrocious.
Wow. All right, cool. So number 3, Brian Mills, taken. Number 2, and this might surprise you, but there's a reason for it. Number 2 is Walter White from Breaking Bad. He is my number 2 worst dad because the man doesn't stop when he should ever. Like he is a very selfish person. He ends up dying at the end of the series. He's a bad dad. He's a bad father figure.
Oh, he dies at the end?
Yeah.
Oh.
Spoiler alert.
I don't plan on watching Breaking Bad. It was I watched the first like 2 episodes. It didn't grab me enough personally.
Finds out he has cancer, decides to deal drugs so he can leave something for his family because that's the easiest way to get it in a short amount of time. Cancer goes into remission in season 2. Then he ends up like then it turns out he might actually still have cancer. It's a whole fucking thing. And he's kind of like a father figure to Jesse, who's the other main character on the show, and then but he's a bad father figure to him. So just bad dad all around. It's called Breaking Bad. It's Breaking Bad. It's bad Breaking Bad.
Doesn't he get his brother-in-law killed too? The DEA agent or whatever.
Yes,
he gets him killed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then number 1, irrefutable. I don't care what anybody says. This man is number 1. Like, he takes cake for worst dad ever. A lot of people probably
Jesus.
won't even know who I'm talking about. No. Gendo Ikari, the dad from the Evangelion series, who bereaves his wife and abuses his son all the way to the end of the world.
Oh.
That's the worst dad
Oh.
ever. He literally turns his son
really
into
bad.
an instrument for the end of the freaking world. It's bad. Like, he's the worst dad. He's the villain of the series.
Ugh.
He's bad. Okay. Let's go best dads.
Oh, I got another. Wait, I got an honorable mention for worst dads.
Okay, hit me.
Toji Fushiguro from Jujutsu Kaisen. Named his kid Megami, which is a feminine name in Japanese, and then just abandoned him.
Yeah, bad.
Have you seen Jujutsu Kaisen?
Cool character though.
Oh,
I was
cool.
just,
dude, that spear.
I was trying to think of like, I was like, how can I defend this character who I actually enjoy?
I enjoy him too. He's just a bad dad, though. Like,
he's an
you can
anti-hero.
enjoy him, and he's
he's
And I
a
mean, in
bad
essence, like Gojo's a bad dad because he adopted Megami, but he's a bad dad.
Yep. All right,
Anyways,
cool.
All right,
All right, best dads. You
let's
ready?
do it. I'm ready.
Number 3,
Jonas
Ned
Taylor.
Stark from Game of Thrones.
I never saw Game of Thrones.
I'm not going to say anymore.
I-
I'm just going to say, like,
Can
the good lessons and the manner and like nobility that he imparted upon his children echo throughout the series.
Can
That's
I
how
admit
good a
something
dad.
to you?
Yeah.
I want to admit something to you and to everybody listening.
What?
Listen, I know it's hard to talk about. I know I pride myself on being a very knowledgeable movie person.
Yeah.
But there's actually one genre that I can just never get into, and is the genre that Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, the shield and sandal epic fantasy archers, sword and shield stuff, like, it's hard for me to get into it.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. I'm glad
Okay.
you're not judging me out loud. Maybe you can do it silently.
That's fine. That's
Like,
that's
Lord of the
fine.
Rings is kind of the Lord of the Rings is it's kind of boring. It's kind of boring.
That's not fine.
So
That's not
The
fine.
Hobbit's very boring.
Yes. The Hobbit
Being
shouldn't have
serious
been
too. Goose.
made into 3 movies.
Yeah. Anyways, number 2.
That's beside
Jonas
the
Taylor.
point. Game of Thrones is amazing. It has a lot of great and bad dads in it. Straight up, like, a lot of really great and a lot of really bad dads in Game of Thrones. Mostly bad. Anyway,
Mostly bad.
number 2, as a counterbalance to Walter White from Breaking Bad, is Hal from Malcolm in the Middle, played by the same actor Bryan Cranston, because he's just a good dad. He does his best
What is
and
that?
he puts up with a lot.
Who plays Malcolm? What is that actor's name? Cody Banks.
Frankie Muniz. Frankie Muniz.
Frankie Muniz. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, dude. Malcolm in the Middle. I wholeheartedly agree with that. That is a
Thank you.
phenomenal show. That's a great one.
And
Not
a
as
good
good as
dad.
Jonas Taylor, but it's good.
But he's a good dad.
Good dad.
Like,
Great dad.
like he's not
He is.
perfect, but he's always trying to be better and learning, and like he gets into antics with the kids. Like, he's just very active. He's in their life, right? Like, he's a main character in the show. So yeah, definitely Hal from Malcolm in the Middle, counterbalancing Bryan Cranston playing Walter White in Breaking Bad. That's why I made it number 2.
Oh wait,
Number 1.
I have another
hit me.
Bryan Cranston, real quick. Another honorable good dad Bryan Cranston role. Or wait. Yeah, well, maybe good, maybe bad. You decide. Godzilla 2014. He's Aaron Taylor Johnson's dad.
That's a subjective one. Like,
is that a bad dad or a good dad? What do you think?
Well, that depends on would you let your offspring anywhere near a giant monster? Like,
no, I think it's a bad dad because after
that's the
it's a bad dad now that I think about it.
All right.
He literally spent like his entire life chasing Godzilla after his wife was killed and just like ignored his son and almost went to jail. Yeah. Bad dad. Bad dad Bryan Cranston. 2 versus.
All right. There we go. Number 1 will surprise you. And it is not portrayed by the actor that you might think. But I'm going to say in every portrayal of this father figure, he has been nothing but supportive, loving, although he shows it in a weird way, or what we might think is a weird way. The moral that is imparted is that family is valued above all else. There is even
Dominic Toretto.
Nope. There is even nope more than Dominic Toretto just says family to rope other people into his heist schemes.
Yeah.
Dominic Toretto is a sociopath who says family as a catchphrase, right?
Yeah.
That's Dominic Toretto. No, this person
That's funny.
is such a family man that the second installment of the live action film franchise is subtitled Family Values. I'm talking about Gomez Addams, who I get to play this fall in the Addams Family musical. And I wouldn't have thought this before, but Gomez Addams, although quirky and weird and a little bit macabre, one, loves his wife and children above literally everything else in the world, and it consistently shows. Two, teaches his children to be themselves, even if it's weird and freaky and whatever, right? And three, make sure that he is consistently instilling the values of a loving father figure. Period. That's it. And that's in every version, like the old TV show, like the thing that freaks people out the most about the Addams Family is how much they love each other, despite how weird they all are.
I know nothing about the Addams Family. I've never seen anything Addams Family related, animated, live action, never, ever, ever. And here's why. It's not a choice that I made. It's not like I actively avoided it. It's because growing up in a conservative, Christian, sheltered, homeschool environment, we weren't allowed to watch anything that had any kind of like, anything that was like gothic or dark arts or magic or anything. I wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. I couldn't watch things like The Addams Family, like Men in Black, because it had aliens and that was against the religion. Like anything that had any of those stuff. So I didn't really get to start watching what I wanted until high school. And by then, I didn't want to watch things like Addams Family because it would have been, old by that point. I mean, it was old already, but I don't know a lot. I just know that people really like the Wednesday show because of Jenna Ortega. She has a little dance.
Even Gomez in that show, he's nothing but supportive.
That actor,
he's a great
I love
dad.
That actor.
Every single time Gomez has been in any version of Addams Family presentation, he has been an upstanding, like loving, nurturing, like family valuing father figure, like through and through. All he wants is for his wife to feel loved and happy, and for his children to love who they are and their family. Period. That's it.
Yeah.
Perfect dad.
And you get to play that.
I highly recommend that you watch the live action installments of the Addams Family. The two movies that came out in the 90s, because they are phenomenal and weird, and they're like short, like they're really good movies. They're like pretty perfect. They're like only like an hour and 20 minutes roughly, right? Like they're like in the 90 to 110 realm, right? Like neither one of them I think breaks the 2-hour mark. And both movies, like, it's just like joke after joke after joke, setup after setup after setup. And like the entire time, it's just like, oh, look how quirky they can be and how weird normal people actually are in comparison to these people. It's pretty good. I highly recommend it. But yeah, no, so that's my number one. However, Mr. Jason Statham list, I have my own little list. And
I was gonna
this
say,
is a list
of
what I would say
Go for it.
are some of the best dad characters to ever exist in film, portrayed by one actor whose name I have already given away.
I know.
And I'm going to list them as such.
I knew this was going to happen. You tried to act like you weren't going to tie this back to him, but I knew you were going to. Go for it. Go for it.
In the movie,
just go for it.
The Mercenary, a father comes out of hiding to help the son he's never met. Sounds like Fast and Furious kind of ripped that one off, huh? In sudden death, an ex-fireman turned security guard got tickets for his kids to go see the Stanley Cup, not knowing that a domestic terrorist was going to blow up the building, and then has to protect not only his children, but America. Going back to our patriotism episode, in the movie Double Team, he has to save his wife and his son and enlist the help of an eccentric arms dealer. In Time Cop, he has to save his family and the future and his future family. In Heist School, students who see the real life Jean-Claude Van Damme as played by Jean-Claude Van Damme as the dad that they need turn to him for help in stealing the answers to an exam. In Six Bullets, he is a mercenary. No, time out. In Six Bullets, he is a mercenary who specializes in finding missing children, ergo doing what other dads couldn't do for them. In Welcome to the Jungle, he steps in as Adam Brody's father figure to help with a team building exercise that has gone awry, and that is just some of the examples in which Jean-Claude Van Damme has been the best father figure in film and TV. Number one, reigning champ of patriotism and father figure.
God damn it. Two things real quick that I want to point out. One,
go ahead.
At least Jason Statham has never played Jason Statham as Jason Statham in a movie. Okay?
I would actually say that is to his discredit. That is to his...
Okay, well...
He didn't write it. Jean-Claude Van Damme didn't write himself as himself. Someone else came to him and said, hey, we need you to play a fictional version of you because of the myth around you.
It's like the Nick Cage Pedro Pascal movie, Unmeasurable Weight of Unbearable Talent or whatever.
Or Chuck Norris playing Chuck Norris.
Before I went down the bit of wanting to tie it back to Meg 2 because it's a fun movie, I legitimately was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look up Jean-Claude Van Damme movies and I'm going to see if Kevin catches on. But then I was like, nah, like I don't know enough Jean-Claude Van Damme movies to like talk about the movies. Like I haven't seen since it came out 10 years ago in 2013. I haven't seen that movie. I haven't seen Death Race, Homefront. Half of the movies I mentioned with Jason Statham, I haven't seen in years, but I still remember them perfectly.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you did that bit because I have
seen so many Jean-Claude Van Damme films. And
I bet
100%. As I was going back through these movies, I was like, wait. And the criteria, here's what popped into my head as the criteria, because I had a feeling that you were going to lean into like Jason Statham of The Rock. I was like, wait, Jean-Claude Van Damme in none of these movies plays a criminal. And I would think that one of the things that would disqualify you from being a good dad in film or TV, right, is the believability that you can actually impart a lifelong good message on your kids. And if you're a criminal in any of them, right, you can't because you're a criminal. No, because
if you
you're
die as a
breaking
criminal, no. See, if you get caught and your kid visits you in jail and they're like, Papa, you were a criminal and you got caught, and you can be like, see, son, this is the lesson I wanted to teach you all along. Crime doesn't pay.
Yeah.
It's a great message for your kid. They'll never be a criminal.
You know what? Yeah, criminal dads. Shout out to criminal dad. Anyway, no, but I realized, like, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Well, and that's part of what made me think of like Walter White. I was like, oh, he's a bad dad because he is a criminal, right?
He's a criminal.
And it literally prevents him from being present as a father figure, right? Like, think about all the crime dads. All their offspring end up hating them, straight up. Like, they end up disliking them.
I mean,
inevitably,
only one of those movies that I mentioned where Jason Statham's actually a father, he's only a criminal in one of them. Because in Furious 7, he's not a dad.
Yep, but that's what ekes Van Damme just a little above him as the reigning champ of fatherhood.
Fucking dare you say that Jean-Claude Van Damme is better than Jason Statham?
It's a little bit.
Jason Statham would wipe the floor with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Do a split punch. What?
Jason Statham punched a shark, so shut up.
That's amazing.
He punched 3 of them.
Look, man, I think my number one dad really, like, number one film actor to play a dad is Jean-Claude Van Damme. but
Mm.
still number
Oh,
one dad.
okay.
As I thought about it, I was like, oh, Adam's Family for sure. It's a family
Mm.
movie about a family with a family loving father.
I think number one actor that I enjoy seeing play a dad,
Yeah,
I honestly
Hulk
think would
Hogan.
be
Hulk Hogan.
no,
It's Hulk
no,
Hogan.
not even close.
Wesley
Not
Snipes.
even close. I
Wesley
like
Snipes.
now. God, what for tax evasion? That's a great criminal dad for you.
Wesley Snipes.
Um, no, I'm trying to think. Like, I like it when I think Steve Carell plays a really good dad. Crazy Stupid Love. He plays a phenomenal dad that I think is really good. He plays a really good dad in Space Force. Um,
Okay.
I think Steve Carell plays a really good dad figure. I
Yeah.
also think that I know it's unpopular, but I kind of like Will Ferrell when he plays a dad. I think he's really
Yeah,
funny.
that makes sense.
Like
Yeah.
those are dads that like the thing is like you're not gonna beat OG like old school TV dads, right? Like you're not gonna beat like Bob Saget in Full House or even Jesse from Full House, like
You know,
or like Fresh
I
Prince
thought
dad.
about that.
You know what I mean?
I thought about that, and honestly, the reason I didn't lean into TV was because there's so many dads who are like
Yeah.
their literal character, like their plot point as a character is to give the moral at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
sitcom episode, right? Like they're literally there to have, like, when you think about TV sitcom dads, their job is to go, whoa, everything's so crazy in my family. And then, like, at the end of the episode, be like, see, son, daughter, kids, family, Uncle Jesse, that weird guy, Uncle Joey living in our basement. Like, also, like, Bob said, first off, like, Full House, let's break that down. He's letting the kids' uncles are living in the attic in the basement and fathering their own
Yeah.
family. Like, it's a whole thing. That's a weird
It's a
decision.
Full House.
It's a Full House, baby. But like those TV dads, their entire job is to like be blown away by how weird their family is until they can give the moral lesson as to why the kids should have done the right thing in the first place, right? Like that's their only point as a dad. And that's where I think like I don't disqualify that from making them good dads in the plot, but like if that's your only purpose, like what the purpose that you're serving in the plot as a character, like that's yeah, of course you're a good dad, quote unquote, but that's your job.
Oh
Like
yeah.
your literal character description is good dad who gives moral lesson at minute 27 or minute 22, you know? Like,
Well, that's kind of what I was saying. Like, I don't think that there's a lot of. I don't think that that's really as common these days. Maybe
yeah.
maybe it was like before 2020, but I feel like the
I don't know,
staple of a
but
good TV,
Modern
the staple
Family,
for a good TV,
atypical,
yeah, I mean,
like those
but like
dad characters
I feel
still
like,
exist.
but if you look up popular sitcoms from the 90s, right? I would bet, and I could be wrong, and somebody can fact check this, but I would bet that there's a lot more TV sitcom dads that are more notable from like the 70s up to the 90s than there are from the 2000s to now. You know what I mean?
Yes, and
Like,
I think
I just would
the reason for that
yeah.
is that the writing room structure has changed in good ways.
Oh, 100%.
So you don't just get
Yeah.
like the ipso facto good dad that people want to see themselves as in these shows now. You get like a more well-rounded version of like he's imperfect, but every once in a while can give a good lesson, you know? Like I
Yeah,
think
and I think
that's a sign
way,
of
way
progress
better.
as far as storytelling goes for our culture. But ultimately, you know,
Yeah.
through and through, at the end of the day, Jason Statham is a wonderful close second to Jean-Claude Van Damme, who is the king of freedom and fatherhood.
Listen, I'm going to concede only
Yeah.
because Jason Statham very, very rarely plays a dad. I had to dive deep. And if you noticed, 2 of those movies, the kid dies on screen early on or is dead before the movie starts. So
Also,
like I had to really
dad.
stretch it.
Should have protected your kids more.
No.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, maybe on one of those, because in Wrath of Man,
sure.
like
he's
totally
a criminal.
Totally his fault. Totally his fault.
Yeah.
It's his fault. It's his fault.
And that's why Jean-Claude Van Damme is a better dad.
I mean, but let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What's your jam?
Okay, cool. My jam this week, that is super, super easy. I got really into One Piece. I actually
Oh yeah, yeah,
binge
yeah.
watched, and I never binge watch, and I watched every episode this week of the live action. It's amazing.
Oh
It's
my god,
heartwarming.
there's
It's
like
silly.
they're
It's
8
fun.
1-hour episodes.
Yes, and I crushed it.
That's
Absolutely
awesome. I need
crushed
to
it.
watch it.
Caden and I were, speaking of dad mode, Caden and I were watching it together,
Mm.
right? Like that's who I've been watching One Piece with. We've been jamming out, man. We had a great time this week. Mom was gone, so like Caden came to rehearsal with me, and then we would go home, brush our teeth, watch an episode of One Piece, go to bed. Not an hour episode. We were watching the cartoon. So I've been watching the cartoon and the live action show, and I gotta say, just phenomenal. Like absolutely One Piece through and through. I think it's actually becoming one of my favorite anime shows in general. Period.
Let me ask you a question about the live action since you've watched it.
Yes.
I've been hearing that unless you've watched the One Piece anime, the show's not going to be that good for you. But if you've watched the anime, then the show is really good. Is that
N-
would you think
I
as
think
somebody
I
who
think it's still gonna
knows
be good.
nothing?
Yeah. I think it's still
Because
gonna
I
be
know
good for you.
zero about One Piece.
I
Okay,
actually
I want to
there
watch
are
it.
some choices made in the live action that I like more than in the cartoon, because the anime and the manga, there's like especially in the anime, there's moments, those moments in like shonen where like the tension buildup gets really drawn out, like
Yeah.
like the Dragon Ball Z moment, or like like the like Demon Slayer moment where like an entire like portion of a battle takes half an episode, right? They still have that in the One
Yeah.
Piece anime, but in the live action they've shortened that a lot. Like there's an episode where one of the villains of the show, Buggy, who's like a clown pirate,
The
is the main
clown.
villain.
Yeah.
And yeah, and Buggy has like in the show there's like a 1 hour episode that kind of encapsulates what is almost I like an entire arc in One Piece, like a 12
Ooh.
episode portion of the show. And I remember when I first started watching it years ago, because it took me forever to finally like build up the steam to actually really enjoy the show. I remember going through that arc and being like, oh, this is like kind of boring and weird and I don't like it that much. But in the show, having all of those things happen in an hour felt actually like really
Yeah.
nice and succinct and tight. I was like, oh, cool. This is good. And they got up to like they were able to crunch the plot points of like I think almost 60 episodes into 8 hours, which is really good.
So you and I have talked about this before about
Yeah.
adapting anime or even like animation, cartoon, whatever into live
Yeah.
action. And personally, when it comes to something like an anime, whether
Yep.
it's because eventually I know that Warner Brothers tapped the director of It Chapter 1, It Chapter 2, and The Flash, Eddie. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. I'm going to say his last name. It's Machini, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a massive fan of Attack on Titan, and he's
Yep.
supposed to do a live action Attack on Titan for Warner Brothers, partnering with a Japanese studio who did the manga. And
Yes.
a lot of times I feel like the reason live action anime adaptations fail is because they do the opposite of what it sounds like One Piece is doing, where they go, well, this is all important, so it all needs to be in, and it just kind of feels muddled. But I like the idea that you can kind of shorten 12 episodes into one hour episode
Yeah.
and still hit all the important parts and
Yep.
kind of leave out the things that aren't important. And I think if you're going to adapt anime, especially one like One Piece where there's thousands of episodes, you kind of have to do that. And I
Yeah.
think making them hour-long episodes, I know that some of them are like 40 minutes, but I saw one was like an hour and 8 minutes. I personally really love, this is my sweet spot for TV. 8 episodes,
Yep.
anywhere from
Yep.
40 minutes to a little over an hour. Not all of them the same length. Give me one
Yeah.
that's 40 minutes. Give me one that's an hour. Give me another that's 45 minutes. Give me one that's an hour and 10 minutes. And then give me a couple 50-minute episodes. I love that shit.
Yeah.
8 episodes, easy, one and done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think time constraint aside, like I think, I was commenting on that because they did it really succinctly, and having watched the anime up to the point that I'm at like episode like 180 now. Out of, yeah, I'm crushing it, man. But like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's all I told you. That's all I'm watching. I'm not watching anything else. Like I'm not turning anything else on and jamming that. Like I'm watching One Piece when I have time because it's fun and it's silly and I needed something lighthearted. And then when it's meaningful and action packed, it's also still fun and still finds time for jokes. And I think one really important thing that the live action did was I think they considered their audience, right? So it wasn't just like someone who loves the anime so much remaking the anime, which can fall on its face, right? And it wasn't someone who doesn't
Easily.
understand it remaking it, Dragon Ball, Avatar.
Ugh.
But like, right? So it's not that. I think this is a good mark for, because it's still not like perfect, and there's like things that I would have loved to have seen that weren't in it, but the way that they lined up the sequence of events and the storytelling, because they go through everybody's backstory, like they show each character as a kid throughout this first set of 8 episodes. What it really does is it sets up all the characters and shows you like where they came from so that it can move forward with the plot in season 2. And I think season 2 is going to be that much better for it because
Yeah, I like that.
yeah, because like it was just it was so good. And they even did Sanji right, which is like favorite character. So glad they did it right.
I'm gonna watch
So
the
good.
first episode after we
Okay,
get done.
good.
I'm gonna watch
Good,
the
you
first
should.
episode after we get done before I go back to work.
You
It's
should.
like an
And
hour.
then
That'll be a good chance for me to like.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'll
And
let you
then
know. I'll text you.
my music jam is a band called Lawrence. It's 2 siblings who have the last name Lawrence and a bunch of friends of theirs that they've compiled over the years. And once again, just fun, lighthearted, funky. It's like a funky pop band, but they're really good. Like you can tell like their big inspirations are like Stevie Wonder, Stevie Nicks, Bill Withers. Like their roots are definitely in like classic rock, but they're playing funkier like modern songs, and they have a really great song that they recorded acoustically with an acapella, like some singers that were I think would be, I don't know if they're an acapella group, but some really great singers as backup, called I'm Confident That I'm Insecure. And it's a really amazing and self-aware song. And I think her name's Gracie Lawrence. She has like, her voice is just like, it sends shivers down my spine. So yeah, I've been jamming them a lot.
Love that.
Yep. What's your jam?
Very nice. Okay, so finished the Silo. I mentioned
Season
that
1
in my housekeeping episode.
Yep.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna be honest. I was really hyped on it, and I was on episode 8 the last time I talked about it, and I gotta be a little honest that the last episode was a little bit too like. I feel like the whole season, and I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll keep it brief. The whole season is building up to like this mystery of like what's outside the silo, right?
Yes.
And the thing is when you answer that mystery, I don't feel like you should then introduce more mysteries, because the ending to the silo, you get answered to what's going on outside the silo, which I called by episode 5. I was like, this is what's happening. And I was right, which is cool. But when you see what's going on outside the silo, it makes you go, okay, well now, like, it feels like, all right, small spoiler alert for the silo. So if you don't want to hear the silo, skip like a minute. Spoiler. It turns out that the outside world is a fucked apocalyptic nuclear wasteland, which is what I called, because you can see in the footage of people when they go outside and it's like all like nice and pretty, you can see the birds fly in the same pattern on every video. So I'm like, okay, like clearly there's something there. But the thing is then the main character goes outside the silo and it turns out there's a bunch of silos. And it's like, okay, but why would the government be so like, because like Goose and I were talking about it, and Goose is like, well, why wouldn't they just tell everybody that it's an apocalyptic wasteland? I'm like, but they are telling everybody, like they are showing you what's going on outside. Like that screen is showing you what's really out there. So it's like, why are they even bothering putting up the fake screen for the people that go outside. It makes no sense, right? Like, what are they going to do? Turn around and be like, oh my God. Like, if anything, that would, because like, here's the thing. If you and I were in the silo, right? And you were like, I'm going to go outside because I want to know what's going on. I would be like, okay, if it's actually like a nice world, like do a peace sign, right? So anybody that goes outside to clean, if it's a nice world, could just be like peace sign. And then they'd be fucked because they'd be like, oh shit, we shouldn't have shown them that it was green when it's really like an apocalyptic wasteland. And on top of that, it's like, why are you like, it just didn't, the ending kind of fell a little flat to me because it just introduces all these questions that when you look back at the show, you're like, that doesn't really make any sense. Like, why did you murder the mayor so you could be the mayor, but like everything was fine when she was the mayor? Like, I don't, like, nobody thought that the outside world was green except for the flame keepers, which if you had just been like, hey, actually, like, let's just walk outside for 2 seconds and, you know, take off the display, the leader of the flame keepers could have seen that it was an apocalyptic wasteland and got him in like, guys, we were wrong, totally wrong. And like, the show sets it up to be like this big brother government system where it's like they're trying to keep the truth from you, but the truth is that they are keeping you safe. So like, it doesn't.
I think there's another truth that will be revealed that.
So here's my theory, because you've seen it, right?
Yes,
you've seen it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so here's my theory.
Okay,
my theory is one of two things. One, that really isn't the outside world. I think my true theory is, and I think this would be really interesting, I think a bunch of doomsday preppers created these silos and thought an apocalyptic war was going to happen. The apocalyptic war didn't happen, so they created this, like, because we clearly see that holograms are a thing, right? So what's to say that the outside world isn't actually a hologram and that green stuff was a hologram on a hologram? I don't think there was an apocalyptic war at all. I think these people are like isolated somewhere, like on an island, and were forced to live in the silo because the doomsday preppers didn't want to admit that they were wrong, because doomsday preppers are fucking crazy. So that's my theory. Or they're on the moon. I don't know. One of those two.
Okay.
So I watched the silo, which, spoilers over, is still worth watching. I really do think it's still worth watching. Almost done with Foundation.
So good. So good.
Fucking phenomenal. Oh,
yeah, I
dude,
love
so
Foundation.
good.
Yeah.
Foundation. So those are the two shows that I'm really excited to finish it.
Nice.
There's a lot of stuff to watch on my list, so I'm going to finish Foundation and then get to some more. So those are the movies or TV shows that I watched.
Oh, did you watch Ahsoka?
I have not watched Ahsoka yet. We had to finish. I know we had to finish the silo first, and then Goose has been sick, and then I had sun poisoning, and then I'm going to watch it. Trust me, you're talking to a Star Wars fan.
We talk about pop culture, and you haven't seen the Addams Family. You've never watched Game of Thrones. You don't watch Ahsoka.
But see, that's why there's two sides to the coin. The things that I don't watch, you watch, and the things you don't watch, I watch, like Jason Statham movies.
Yes. Well, I've watched them. Like, I know Death Race. Like, when you said Death Race, I was like, oh yeah, that was a pretty cool movie. But like,
it's all right.
The action movies just don't scratch that itch for me the way they used to. You know?
No.
Like, when
they only do when I go in.
Great
with,
when
like,
you're like
gummies.
a teenager or a young adult, or like if it becomes the genre that you love. But like, for me, I think as I've gotten older, I need more fantasy. I need more, like, and right now specifically, you know, talking about One Piece, I need something that's like silly and kind of foolhardy, and, you know, at the end of the day has a good, like, moral, even if it's like, because the big overarching moral of One Piece is like, never give up on your dreams, which I love. Like, that's
great.
What a great thing to have just be the overarching theme of an entire thing, right? So good.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I like action movies when legitimately I like to go see action movies when I know they're going to be super dumb, but I can enjoy it. Like the Meg 2. Like, I know I talk about this movie a lot, but like, I legitimately had a fantastic time watching it. Have I seen it since? No. Will I watch it when it comes out to streaming? Absolutely. But just like I saw it in theaters when we saw like Southland Tales, or like any real action movie like Red Notice, or like any action movie, I pop a couple gummies, I have my computer, I do some script writing, I'm kind of paying attention, it's funny. But I agree. I think like there's a reason why like some action movies that I wanted to watch, like I watched the first Extraction with Chris Hemsworth on Netflix, and I was like, wow, this is like an action movie. I have yet to see the sequel. I like John Wick movies because John Wick movies are directed and created by stunt people, so that the action scenes in those movies are incredible. But at the end of the day, I kind of agree with you. I have a really big soft spot for dramedies. I love comedic dramas.
Okay.
But anyways, getting way off track. My other jams, real quick. I've been reading for once. I've been reading not only, I'm pretty much all the way caught up on it, but I've been reading the My Hero manga, caught up on that because I like to read the manga over the animes. And then I also am all the way caught up on Jujutsu Kaisen's manga. So, and I want to mention that because as of 3 days ago, the Jujutsu Kaisen Shibuya arc, which is going to run from August 31st, which we're already past, up until January, has just come out. And there's a lot of people talking about how if you don't know what happens in the manga, you're going to be devastated and everything. So I'm really excited that I've already read the Shibuya arc. I read it like years ago, or over a year ago. Jujutsu Kaisen and My Hero are two of my favorite mangas and animes to watch. If you're not a big anime fan, if you're like anime is gross, I would suggest trying Jujutsu Kaisen or My Hero. I think those are two really good animes. Would you agree with that statement?
I would agree. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
And then what else?
Jam. Music wise,
you have so many jams.
Music hasn't really changed much. Still listening. I know, but I wanted to talk about them all. Music jams haven't really changed much. Still listening to a lot of Sleep Token, Bad Omens, Noah Khan, Post Malone, and so forth. But do you remember the song Pompeii from an artist called Bastille?
Yeah, of course.
He partnered with Hans Zimmer and remixed and remade that song. And it is incredible. If you like Hans Zimmer, if you like more like music, cinematic scores, and you're like, Pompeii is a fun song. There's a choir, there's an orchestra. It has Hans Zimmer's touch all the way through. It is a phenomenal 5-minute listen. Highly recommend. It gave me chills. I love Hans Zimmer.
Cool.
I think it's so cool that they did that, and that's why I wanted to do. That's the only jam I have for music. But
all right, that's cool. Well, I gotta wrap it up. I have to go. Hang with Cade's. It's his birthday party today, and I got him $90 worth of Sonic Legos. So we got to get those wrapped up and get over there, man. He loves Sonic.
I've
he
got to
also
watch One
loves
Piece.
Zoro from One Piece. And then, you got to tell me what you think about the action scenes in One Piece. But let's wrap this up. I'm going to let you know that because I now have a theme going, that this December is going to be Jean-Claude Van December. And every episode is going to be about a specific portion of Jean-Claude Van Damme's legacy on the American people and the people to which he is a father figure to.
Fine. I
don't
get vetoes.
Yes. Perfect.